Welcome to the week 2 reflection for Advent, waiting in doubt, waiting in anxiety, waiting in uncertainty. The root of the inspiration actually for this week came from the Advent album that I've been promoting. It's by a musician named Graham Jones, and he has this line in a song that he sings, Good News, Great Joy, I think it's the title track from the album, where he's talking about telling the story of Zechariah and Elizabeth praying for a child. And as he's telling the part where Zechariah is like, I don't think so, and then he's mute, right, for the next 8 months. Graham puts it this way. He says, if you won't believe God's promise, if you won't believe his promise, then be silent before God. He doesn't say it in a condemning tone, but I was so struck, so taken aback at the urging that we're given through those lyrics to when we are just unable to believe that God's promise is true, that God who promised that he would give a child to Elizabeth and Zechariah, if you can't believe his promise, then just be silent before God. And that's what Zechariah did, not willingly, as far as scripture kind of narrates it, but maybe we would be willingly silent before God, rather than spouting there's no way God could be telling the truth, or giving voice to my doubt, like giving space in my mind and my thoughts, and giving energy to my anxiety, and giving these resources that I have, the time that I have, the space in my mind, the space in my heart, the energy that I have in my mind, the thoughts that I allow to be tape loops in my head. Are those thoughts and tape loops of belief and trust? Or are they thoughts and beliefs and tape loops of doubt and of anxiety? So the kind of thing I've been thinking about, reflecting on with respect to waiting in the unknown, waiting in doubt, waiting in anxiety or uncertainty, is the call to not let those narratives take over our narrative. The story that is deepest and truest about each human being is that God loved each of us so much that he sent his son. And so, in view of that narrative, if that is the foundational narrative of the world, and that God created the world and each of us out of love and joy, then that can shift our perspective of what it might mean when we have feelings of anxiety or we have feelings of doubt, that we don't have to believe or listen to or give energy or air or breath to those narratives that are not what God has told us is true. There's a great quote that I read too that I wanted to share with y'all. It's just a different way of, a different perspective on doubt. It's by Jamie Varon. It could all work out. Maybe it's already finding a way to work out for you. But if we're so focused on it going a certain way, or doubtful that it will work out, we might miss the way that it's meant to unfold. Always keep yourself open to new, better, different ways. You'll circle the same lesson again and again until you see what it's trying to teach you, what's trying to come forth. She urges hopefulness with flexibility. One of the other pieces of working with the doubts or anxieties that reside in our heads that another friend shared with me was, I think there's something useful, she says, and realistic about naming the hard times and not trying to sugarcoat it. It's almost a guard against depression, right? You don't fool yourself into some kind of fake upbeat attitude, which I can never maintain, but recognizing something is hard doesn't mean it has to bury you. I wonder what it might have been like if Zechariah, instead of saying, "God's a liar, there's no way," would have said, "Wow, how can this be?" We know that was Mary's response. How can this be? And so we can both acknowledge the truth and challenge of belief and hope, while also resolving, praying for that belief and hope too. Being open to a new way, a different way, a better way that it might work out. Because of course, Zechariah was right. They were too old to have kids. They had been waiting for decades. There was no way this was going to happen. But in being open to the work that God was doing, was about to do in their lives, new life, new creation, a great prophet came to be. So we're challenged this week and in this Advent season of waiting to wait with an expectation of hope and of resolution for our good and of joy, even if we don't see how it can possibly be, how it could conceivably happen. It's that mystery of trust, trusting in the perhaps new, better, different way that God might already be working things out for us. I was reminded today, in closing, of a collect, which is just a collecting prayer in the Book of Common Prayer that talks a bit about anxieties, asking God to put away from us all earthly anxieties, that we would cling to heavenly things. I talked with that friend who reminded me of that collect about how heavenly things doesn't have to mean disembodied or lofty or next worldly sort of things, but the ways that God breaks in and is present and brings new creation here, now, today, this afternoon, in the sunshine, here, exactly now, in this breath. May you find freedom from doubt and anxiety and trust in God's presence and good work, in the heavenly things that He is showing you even today.